Hey gang, so it's the middle of summer, which means it's the middle of convention season, and it's like every weekend there's a new convention popping up. There's a new Comic-Con or a new Anime Con or a new nerdy thing that I like con popping up somewhere, everywhere. It's like convention frenzy. Every year there are more and more conventions to do, and as a creator, it can be really stressful. So I want to talk about two alternatives to getting into one of these shows, like a Baltimore Comic-Con or a San Diego Comic-Con or an Otakon or something like that. Now, before I get into that, I want to talk about why it's getting more and more stressful for us as creators. So if you're a fan and you like a nerdy thing, there's probably a convention for that, which is awesome for you because it means all the things that you love are in this one place. Like, you get to meet the creators that do the thing that you like. You get to meet actors associated with the thing that you like. A lot of times the dealer room is full of stuff that you can't normally get easily, unless you import a lot of things or, have means to find some of this stuff. It's all right there. You don't have to go anywhere else. You just, buy your ticket, go to the convention, hang out for a couple of days, meet a couple of new friends. And it's great. It is amazing if you're an attendee. On the other hand, if you're a creator, if you're an indie creator trying to make a buck at one of these shows, man, there are a lot of non-art things that you have to worry about. Like, there's a whole bunch of shitty logistics that go into doing a show. You got to figure out your travel, how you're getting there. You got to figure out where you're staying. You got to figure out how you're budgeting for food. If you're bringing your own food or if you're buying stuff at the convention, which is sometimes a necessity because you've forgotten to plan ahead. You got to make a display. You got to figure out how your display is going to stand out from other people. Or if you're just going to copy everyone and do that fucking PVC wall and pull all your bullshit things right here and cover it up so you can hide behind it because you're afraid of people. Don't fucking do that. You got to get your merchandise to the show. If this is an out-of-town show and you're flying into the show, that means you have to ship your shit. Or the airline might lose your stuff if you bring it on check it in the luggage. I mean, there's all sorts of nightmarish logistical bullshit that you have to figure out. And that, sometimes if you're not making money at the show, that time doing all that logistical crap could have been better spent making your thing. Like if you're a creator, if you're making comics, instead of spending hours figuring out how to get over to San Diego, you could have stayed at home, made comics, and probably sold a lot more online, So, it's tough. The other thing that sucks is that a lot of times that the money walking around at a show is already spoken for. Like, if people are going to San Diego, they're not necessarily looking for new comics. Their money is tied up in exclusive toys or exclusive cover releases or signatures from autographs from like actors and shit like that. Their money is gone. It's not there for you. Their money is spoken for. If they're a cosplayer, they've already spent a shit ton of money, not only getting to the show, but like doing their costumes and stuff. So, cosplayers might walk past your table and like your stuff, but they've already spent a shit ton of money. And some of them don't even have pockets. Where are they going to carry your stuff? So if you don't have bags, cosplayers aren't going to buy shit from you. So it's tough. It can be, I love going to shows, and I love hanging out with people, and I love meeting new people and all that kind of stuff. But for a couple of years, it's taken a while to get to the point where I've weeded out shows that I don't make money at because, it sucks. Like, hanging out and having fun is great, but if you do that a lot and you're not making money and you're not even breaking even, if you're not paying for any of those logistics, doing shows can be exhausting and a time sink and a money sink, and that really fucking sucks. You're not doing this because you enjoy logistics. You're doing this to try to branch out and meet new people and push your stuff forward, and sometimes it sucks. So there are two alternatives to trying to get into one of these cons. There's the one-day show, and there is the signing. Signing with a caveat. One-day show or a signing with a caveat. And I want to explain both of these. So a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine, Monica Gallagher, organized a bunch of cartoonists to do this thing called Be More Into Comics. And it's a one-day show. It's free for attendees. The table fee is something stupid like $25. It's nothing, $25. and she got in contact with a local venue, which was like an indie rock club, served alcohol. So you come in, it's a free show. You can grab a beer, you can hang out, and you can browse through comics from a bunch of indie creators. You could buy stuff. There's places for people to buy their comics and read and stuff like that. Creators, if it was slow, we could get a beer from the bar and drink and hang out and stuff. And I really think that this is a model that should be emulated across the country. Like small, local, one-day shows that are free. A group of indie creators. I mean, it's the best. You don't have to have a lot of the logistics that go into going to one of these bigger shows or even these medium-sized shows. You don't have to worry about. All you got to worry about is parking and coming up with $25 for the table. And if you buy coffee on a regular basis, maybe not buy coffee for a week and you've paid for your table. Now it's still a growing show. Be More Into Comics. I think this is the 4th one they've done. The 3rd one this year. There's going to be another one in November. So they're working on advertising and building a community around the show, sort of like what we used to do with Art Fight. Just telling all our friends and building a community around the show, so that now when we do event, a lot of times we sell out. And Be More Into Comics is doing the same thing. Building a local groundswell of buzz and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's great. And I think this can work in any city or anywhere, really. Like, I think finding a venue where they serve beer is helpful. But like if you've got if you know a couple of cartoonists in your area and you're sick of trying to get into shows, or like if you're tired of Otacon's what do they call it, raffle system, or these bigger shows that have curated attendance and all that kind of stuff, maybe get together with a bunch of your friends, 4 or 5 of them, and set up a small show at a local bar. That's how it started. That's how Be More Into Comics started. The first one had maybe 10 creators at a local bar, and it was great. So a lot of times venues are willing to, if you have local indie rock clubs or local bars that are just, I don't know, sometimes they're looking for stuff to do during the day when it's a little bit slow. Why not invite a bunch of cartoonists in and maybe generate a little bit of buzz? So if you have a group of friends together, get this out, and you want to try to do the convention thing without having to spend all the money that it normally takes, just start cold calling local venues. Or if there's a place that you hang out all the time and the bartender knows you at this point, talk to the bartender. I mean, there are ways to work it out. Start small. Maybe start with 5 people or 5 creators or 5 of your friends, and then just expand it. See how big you can make it. But the keys are one-day show, free attendance, some sort of table fee, because a lot of these venues, even though they might be willing to just let you come in, it'll probably cost a little bit of money to open early, or to staff it or something like that. So make sure your table fee covers that cost. Make it reasonable. Anything over $20-25 is probably pushing it. And then just hang out. Sometimes you won't make a lot of money at a bigger show. Sometimes you will make a lot of money at a bigger show, but it's a crapshoot. But if you're doing one of these local shows, these small shows, it doesn't matter. If you make your $25 back, that's great. If you don't make your $25 back, it's not too much of a hit, because you're hanging out with friends and you're drinking beer and you're talking about comics, and maybe you're making comics. So go out there. If you're sick of trying to get into these bigger shows, and try out the one-day free show model. And who knows, maybe somebody in your area has already done this. Check out I don't know where you find local cartoonists. I guess Meetup. I guess they're meetups, maybe something like that. But see if anyone in your area is doing something like this. If no one is doing something like this in your area, and you really want to get out there and try a convention and not kick your ass, try setting something up like this. The other thing I want to talk about is signings. Now, the same weekend I did Be More Into Comics, the next day I had the signing at a community center in Chinatown in DC, Chinese American Community Center, Chinese something. I don't remember what the community center was called, but it was a group of Chinese Americans that invited a friend of mine to speak, and he was like, well, I know a local cartoonist, I want to bring him in. And we had a moderator and stuff. And we were discussing Asian American comics, the Asian American comics experience, why it was important to have diversity in comics, where Asian Americans are in the grand scheme of things and all that kind of stuff. And there were maybe like 15, 20 people in the audience, all much older, not the target audience of that you would typically think of as the comics audience. But they were all really fascinated with what we had to say. And I ended up selling quite a few books, a lot more books than I thought I would. I mean, I brought stuff just because, you always want to have that opportunity. But because of the discussion and because there was some context for my work, and because through the discussion they got to know a little bit more about what I do as a cartoonist, there was a lot of interest in my work. And so people came up to me and had some good conversations, and they bought stuff. I've done signings in the past where you just kind of show up to a show and say, hey, I'm doing a signing. And I've had mixed results. Sometimes I've done well, sometimes I haven't done well. And I think if you are able to frame your signing around a theme, and you give a talk beforehand, and you get a moderator, and you have other creators, and you talk about something, and you give a talk about something, that gives the attendees some sort of context about your work. These people didn't know anything about my stuff. They didn't know anything about webcomics. They didn't know anything about comics. And by the end of the day, by the end of our 2-hour discussion, they were all about it. They were all interested. They wanted to know where to find more comics. They loved our stuff. They wanted to find more stuff. So if you give the attendees some sort of context for your work, I think that can help maximize your in-person signing potential, especially if you're not a big name. Like, nobody knows who the fuck I am. But I sold pretty well because there was a context for my work. They met me essentially through this discussion. So if you know a local group that you would like to speak to, or if you have a relationship with a comic book shop or a local shop like that, try to see if you can set up a signing where you give a discussion about something beforehand and then do the signing after. So like maybe your comic is all about coffee and I don't know, coffee and what are the coffee and coffee cake or something like that. Maybe you do a signing at a coffee shop, and beforehand, before the signing starts, you get like a little roundtable discussion about like your favorite coffees and why coffee is so important to you and how coffee has influenced your life as a creator and all that kind of stuff. Maybe if your comic is about like ninjas and stuff like that, maybe you do a roundtable discussion about like secret warriors and talk about ninjas and other types of similar assassins throughout history and stuff like that. If your comic is about, starships or something like that, whatever it is, find a venue that's friendly to that theme. It doesn't have to be a comic shop, although comic shop is the ideal location for these things. But find a location that's friendly to your theme, or a bookshop that wants more people to come in and talk about comics. And then get a moderator. It could be you, it could be a friend of yours or somebody like that, and just have a discussion. And I think that will help generate sales because, you get new people coming in who may not necessarily know who you are. And by the end of your discussion, they'll have an intimate knowledge of your stuff and where you're coming from and your background. And they'll be more willing to support you because they feel like they know you now. So there you go. 2 excellent alternatives, I think, to getting into one of these shows. The 1-day free show and the signing with a round table. So go out there, make your money. Don't stress out too bad during con season, And if you don't get into the big show that you really, really wanted to get into, fuck it. Make your own show. Make your own 1-day free show, or make a signing. Do a signing somewhere. So yeah, don't pin your hopes on these big shows. They're not always what they crack up to be. Sometimes doing it small and local is better for you. So, all right, that's all I got to say. Speaking of shows, I got to prepare for some shows later this year, so I got to get cracking on other stuff. All right, thanks for checking it out. Checking me out. I'll check you later. Bye.